discuss the symbiotic relationship between Connecticut cities and their first-ring suburbs. With East Hartford, you have the added layer that their partner city is also the state capital, meaning that decisions made just a few miles away under the Gold Dome affect decisions on Main Street in East Hartford. Mayor Marcia Leclerc joins us today on the Municipal Voice to talk about the current legislative session, what's going on in town, and infrastructure plans down the road. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor at Digital Back Office, Palo Alto Networks. Check them out at digitalbackoffice.com or paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state-local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Mayor Leclerc, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So, as we said in our intro, we have had guests on before who talk about the close relationship between their cities and, sort of if they're a first-ring suburb of sort of the larger town next to them. And these are some of the more tight relationships within our state. And your neighboring big town just happens to be the state capital. So I was thinking it would be good to start with some of what's happening there. What are some of the most important pieces of legislation to your community this year?
Of course, mine are the important pieces of legislation that are happening for East Hartford. Definitely are concerns for other large municipalities and centers of cities. Those three things that I will tell you that have always been on my radar, and certainly CCM and everyone that knows me knows that I've for years advocated for higher payment for pilot and for state-owned properties and universities and hospitals, because those impact our community greatly. But also keeping on the horizon the payment in lieu of taxes for machinery and equipment impact our community. And of course, I've kept on my radar desegregate Connecticut because I believe with more appropriate and affordable housing, East Hartford would be able to help to go through a gentrification and rehabilitate those properties and make sure that families have the opportunity to live in a community with proper housing, affordable housing, and really to end the transient nature of families throughout the state of Connecticut.
Those sound like some really big, important ones. It sounds, I think a lot of us last year, because of COVID, kind of everything got shortened and we're kind of making up for lost time this year. Are there issues that you feel like maybe got kind of boxed out and left on the wayside because of COVID?
Well, I know that the state of Connecticut is really dealing with some really meaty issues. And, as part of being a municipality that's been very active with CCM, we for years have advocated for different ways for municipalities to generate revenue, which really would be brought to our bottom line and how important that is. Cities, and we are a first-ring suburb of the city of Hartford, and we're no stranger to all the challenges that a major city has. We have lack of land for development. We have an abundance of tax-exempt properties. While the city of Hartford has over 50% tax-exempt properties, the town of East Hartford has a steady increase year over year, increasing for non-taxable property. And we have 13% of our property is tax-exempt, and that's increasing year over year. That brings its own set of problems and challenges to the table. And ultimately, we have a large subsidized housing that really 50% of our housing stock is not owner occupied, which brings another set of issues to the table. And we have a large transient population, and families cannot reach their fullest potential when they're always struggling for the basic necessities of housing, to cover their utilities, and to keep their children in a school system for longer periods of time that really would make the outcomes for those children much richer and much more valuable.
Yeah.
We have one of the highest mill rates as well in the state. So we have our challenges. And if pilot were to come about and really to move to really refunding communities that revenue that was lost, our mill rate would be lower. Developers would look at us differently. They would see us as an opportunity to develop and not ask for more exemptions. It's a really vicious cycle.
Yeah, I know one of the problems with the pilot is that it's not fully funded all the time. So even the money that you were promised you were going to get for those, you're not in fact always getting.
This year alone, and when we filed our 2019 East Hartford Grand List, the
Mm,
exemptions increased by 42 million. So that represents a 13.7% increase year over year,
yeah,
350 million in exemptions. And that
yeah. So
equates to 17.1 million of unrealized tax dollars that now is carried on the backs of our residents and businesses.
yeah, we're not talking about small numbers when we're talking about these things.
We're talking about big things that the general public does not quite understand. It's
Yeah,
not that we want to do things we want to, or we're spending money foolishly. It's not. It's we're trying to provide the services that we've been entrusted to provide in the most efficient manner,
yeah.
and to pay for the services cost a significant amount of revenue.
So one of the flip sides from the taxes and that stuff is economic development. The one we all hope for. And we've talked a lot on the show about this in the last year, especially kind of looking forward to the kind of a post-COVID economy. And East Hartford certainly is going to be a part of that. Businesses like Rebel Dog Coffee just moved in on Main Street in East Hartford. We've been there, a great Connecticut-based business. How does East Hartford attract and grow more development like that?
Well, to be honest with you, thank goodness for Goodwin College. They have been doing amazing things and really revitalizing with a very compelling story and a very compelling footprint that they have succinctly acquired the properties within a specific area.
Hmm.
And many people forget that what was there was certainly um, large oil tankers, barrels, and they have really transcended that property. And for East Hartford, any type of development means acquiring property,
Hmm.
demolishing, and rehabilitating it in order to get to that because we are fully built out. We have
Hmm.
less than 3% of raw land left for development. So those challenges are real. So
Yeah.
aside from the great and amazing things that Goodman College is doing, Pratt and Whitney has just placed on their market 250 acres of the airstrip. And as you know, in the past we've had some, hit and run with trying to get that developed,
Hmm.
and it didn't go anywhere. And I guess, in hindsight, a retail component probably a good thing that it didn't survive, knowing that the survival of retail in the future is going to
Is
be
now in question. Yeah.
no. So, but for Silver Lane, we know that that is a gateway to really great economic development and rehabilitation, revitalization. So there's some things that we're doing that really are making a difference. And fortunately, I have a seat at the table at Capital Region Development Authority, which
Hmm.
really and the major redevelopment agency that is really transforming the city of Hartford.
Hmm.
So we have asked them to step in and help us because with one person in a development office, it's a lot to undertake to acquire a property, demolish it, and to go to RFP and work with
Yeah.
finance. So we did acquire and demolish the former Showcase Cinema property.
Hmm.
We're hoping that the infusion of a new development there. We know that in East Hartford we have a gap in housing, meaning
Hmm.
that we have that middle housing component that is necessary to infuse an area when people leave their parents' home and look for a home. There is no housing. That level of
Hmm.
housing, market rate housing, is missing. So this new development that we're trying to plan for there really will be an infusion of foot traffic into the area.
Hmm.
So we're hoping that it will help to rehabilitate some of the other areas. So
Hmm.
we've put a lot of effort and time and everything looking at our infrastructure, working with the state of Connecticut to rehabilitate the area. We're
Hmm.
going to be putting in some pedestrian lighting along this area as well as putting sidewalks. There's pits and stops and starts of sidewalks. There's no
Yeah.
connectivity on the road. So that's an undertaking, and we're addressing that in several other areas of East Hartford along our Main Street corridors and from the
Hmm.
riverfront to Main Street. So we really want to have connectivity or foot traffic as a major focus.
Yeah, so just a walkable downtown that's going to attract kind of that younger demographic that's starting.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, the Rebel Dog opened, and it's been a great hit in the town of East
Yeah.
Hartford. We're not like a city where we have multiple establishments for restaurants,
Hmm.
or do we have the infusion of arts. So the city of Hartford certainly would be a different city if Pilot and all of the funding was received for them.
Yeah.
They are the centralized area for the region to really bring about those great assets like the Bushnell and the arts and entertainment, the sporting venues.
Yeah.
And I think the whole region as a whole will succeed, uh,
Hmm.
and Hartford can be the economic engine for economic development. They will ultimately spill over into our community, which we're excited about.
Yeah. Talking about the regionalization or the regional area, I know East Hartford is part of the Capital Region COG, Council of Government. Do you work with them on plans to help kind of the entire region? Is Are they a part of the equation there?
We do. We gather together. There's 38 municipalities that happen to be the chair of the policy board for our COG, which is Capital Region Development Authority,
Hmm.
Capital Council of Government. And we work together, and we cheerlead for one another.
Hmm.
There are transportation dollars that flow in and out of the COG, and
Hmm.
it's quite right now there's some fabulous pro- properties that are being transformed and developed along the fast track corridor,
Hmm.
um, along the future rail in East Windsor and Windsor Locks, and
Hmm.
really it will ultimately unify us because when they succeed, we all succeed. For instance,
Yeah.
when the new train station develops and they can bring access from the airport into downtown Hartford, where we can then generate more tourism, or
Hmm.
at the convention center, more convention business. The more people we can get into the city, the more money that
Yeah.
can be generated. It's all about economic development, and having
Hmm.
it be coordinated in a regional way certainly makes sense.
And so it sounds like you're talking about transit-oriented development. And does that tie into what you're talking before about kind of the walkable aspect too? Like not only being able to walk, but being able to get to and from with public transport?
Well, we certainly believe that East Hartford is connected to the city of Hartford, and we also want to make sure that we have sidewalks, and we also have appropriate safety shoulders for biking.
Hmm.
And other means of transportation are just really need to have a large infusion. And I think with the what's happening in Washington, that may really be a reality for us.
In the CT Mirror, there was a recent article talking about the realigning of Hartford's highways, which have been kind of a quagmire for as long as I think a lot of us can remember. In that article, there seems to be places where East Hartford could benefit, maybe the creation of parks, perhaps even new neighborhoods, traffic easements. But in other ways, there's still just kind of this highway cutting right through town. We need it; you can't get rid of it. But what do you see as the kind of optimal highway plan for East Hartford?
There's several floating out there but DOT has had some planning and some recent amendments to the plan. The Hartford 400 kind of plan actually outlines a different way of moving the highway system through the city of Hartford, and kind of a, a different mode of connecting 84 and 91, which would alleviate some of the mixed master in East
Mm,
Hartford, up some of our most valuable land, which can't be used for development now.
yeah.
That really will free up some other opportunities for the town of East Hartford and for the region.
Mm,
Uh, Riverfront area of East Hartford along making Connecticut Boulevard a major corridor into the downtown will reinfuse that area as well. So I think the plan on the Hartford 400 side that shares the DOT and Doug Sussman's vision,
hmm.
and I know long-standing Congressman Marcia has been an advocate for redesigning the interstates that intersect through the city
Hmm.
of Hartford, will certainly alleviate some of the congestion, but will give us back some of our land for development.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, like, it could open up some waterfront stuff, so you could almost mirror kind of what Harvard did with the Riverwalk sort of side of things, but on the other
Well,
side. Yeah.
Parker will be uniquely different because, as you know, the one thing that's different about East Hartford and Hartford and the Connecticut River is that we flood. So we
Mm,
would love to be a different type of destination, but
mm,
certainly putting the Highway 91 corridor underground and on the Hartford side and having green space,
mm.
connect, reconnecting the river to downtown. What an amazing
So even just
opportunity that would.
open natural areas, that sort of thing. Yeah, certainly prettier than the underside of a highway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And when you see the plans, it's really kind of what a great envisioning for the
Mm,
future. And I know it will take a very long time to absolutely happen, and it will be testing the strength and resilience of downtown traffic and workspace that people trying to get to work.
yeah.
But um, Hartford has been doing amazing things, and I think the infusion of development in Hartford really is a catalyst, and
Mm,
adding the transportation component to that,
yeah.
they, it really will make a difference for the future of the area. Hartford is the same exact size as East Hartford. We're roughly 18 square miles each.
Yeah.
Hartford has significant density.
Hmm.
Um, they are the spoke for the region, but uh, when I think about what it could be.
Hmm.
I've been in other communities along the riverbanks, and you see how the infusion of how they become economic engines, not only for uh, vitality and life, but also for generating better quality of life for people. And
Hmm.
I went to Covington, Kentucky for recently, well, I'd say
Yeah.
about 8 years ago, in Covington, across from Cincinnati. And
Hmm.
when you look at how they've been able to rehabilitate themselves in a very old city that needed an infusion, and that really was nothing, and it really isn't where it needs to be yet, but
Hmm.
you see the tentacles of great success happening there, and I'm hoping that that will be the same type of infusion that we can get here in Hartford.
Be
So
kind of
we
looking at that long game.
we have a small staff, and when you talk about the pandemic hitting and our attention really having to be diverted to
Yeah.
the pandemic, we still have our foot on the gas. I mean, we have so many projects going. We are coming to the finalizing the last bits of getting our new senior center
Hmm.
up and running. Be the state of the art senior center, which is just absolutely beautiful. So that's exciting. We've never had a true senior center before. It was in a
Yeah.
school that was in much need of infusion. We have in the works. We have several significant architectural projects working for many of our municipal buildings. We've done a town in the middle throes of a new townwide sign system that's being put in. It really reshapes the. You have to look at something that's nice looking in order to say,
Yeah.
and getting lots of compliments on that, and never thinking that just changing all of the signage in town to a unified approach would really make that something. But people are loving it,
People
and really,
notice it when it's there, and it just it's subtle, but when it's there, people notice it, and it lends to the overall feeling of what's going on in town.
and increasing our maintenance standards in the town of East Hartford has been something that for my entire time as mayor that I've advocated for, and it's everything from ensuring our parks are taken care of to our landscaping and mulching is taken care of. And there's a lot of projects left to do, but there's a lot
Yeah.
on the.
You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH LP 103.5 FM.
So, the pandemic didn't stop town government. Things still had to get done. Things were still moving along, but it did certainly create some challenges for everybody, especially financially. And so, one thing I was curious about to talk about is the American Rescue Plan, which is the federal money in response to the epidemic here. This past month, you were joined by Senator Blumenthal and Congressman John Larson, along with some other key town staff. And you are set to receive $37 million between the town and the Board of Ed. What does that mean to East Hartford? What kind of developments can you do with that funding?
Well, so first of all, it's like winning the lottery, right? Because to have that type of money and not have that placed on our, taxpayers' wallets when we go out is something really exciting. And we certainly have aligned the projects, many projects that we can really make an impact in the community with. But the one thing is, we don't know how we can use it yet.
Okay.
So there are strings attached to this. We understand the Treasury. I have not read, nor have I heard that the Treasury has released how we can use it.
Mm-hmm.
If we can use it for economic infusion to the town of East Hartford, and couple that with additional bonding dollars that we have ready and the projects that we have ready, we can really make a big difference in our community.
Excellent. So you got to read all the fine print to figure out where to use it, but there's no shortage of ways in which you can use it.
Exactly. And we have other pockets of money that we really could put to bear for it.
Good to know. That'll certainly come in handy wherever it ends up going exactly. Talking about money, budgets, that kind of stuff. East Hartford's budget was approved in a process that was called extraordinary due to the pandemic. Can you talk about that process and, what were some of your big wins in that budget?
So the big wins in the budget was that we had a small infusion of grand list growth. We had some additional MM&E funding that came through, and thanks to our delegation, but more specifically Jason Rojas, for understanding how important that revenue is to our town of East Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if we could get more revenue, we would be a different community for sure. The wins in that budget were that we were able to continue to provide very rich services to our residents. We were able to keep all of our employees on board, and we were able to add a few additional positions.
Excellent.
East Hartford over the years has done a great job of eliminating positions and reducing staff.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic hit, you realize that lean isn't always the best. We had missing layers of management that really needed to come to bear to really pull us through. And I did identify those shortfalls within our state government structure. Mm-hmm. And we were able to add we're seeking to add in effective July, a deputy finance manager, which gives the ability, if God forbid, if one of our directors had, been COVID or been impacted by the COVID, we would have been out without, right?
Yeah.
So we're not the only municipality that would have found themselves like that.
Yeah.
And we also were able to get a deputy public works director on the books, and that's one of our largest departments. And of course, the pandemic was impacted by Storm Isaias, right?
Yep.
In the middle of that, not only are we dealing with a pandemic and trying to make way, but then we're dealing with a major storm that impacted us.
Yeah.
And in our finance department, dealing with the collection of information in FEMA and the costs associated with the CARES Act and FEMA, the finance department was really short-staffed. Public was short-staffed. And there's other areas we could have added, but, I just wanted to tread lightly into adding positions.
It sounds like some of the stuff is dealing with problems that, you didn't anticipate, no one anticipated prior to last year, that you never thought you would need to have this kind of coverage. But now, even if you didn't necessarily lose that department head, you saw that it could have easily happened, and you have to be prepared for that.
Actually, since I took office in 2010, we were hit with storms that impacted us, and we had to open our EOC, which had not been opened in years. And we learned collectively together, myself and all of my new directors, how to manage through the storms. And we did a great job. But one of the resilience factors that I felt like was that we needed to get trained. So we did apply to FEMA, and we did get. They did agree to come in, and we did a week-long training exercise in town.
Hmm.
Developed a program around it. It really has helped us to shape how we responded to the pandemic, and of course, compounded by Storm Isaias. So
Hmm.
we're really fortunate to have had that training, and it created a better resiliency in us and a better way for us to communicate with our residents. As a result of that, we engaged in emergency Everbridge communication to our residents. We have an East Hartford alert system that is
Hmm.
separate in the state of Connecticut system. We can contact our residents at any time with critical information. And we also are very can move very quickly to get a message out to our community. So
That's great.
I'm really happy that we had the opportunity to have that in place prior to this. So.
Yeah, so you had a lot of systems in place already that helped you here, and you're lucky in that because not everyone did. But now it sounds like you had those in place that helped you at the beginning, and then you saw the need for some things and you adjusted in your finance department. So it's not one answer; it's be ready and then be ready to adjust as you need.
So it really worked it. I'd say, there's always room for improvement. So I just say that, but I'm delighted that we had everything in place that has helped us to manage through this pandemic. And, it helps to have be surrounded by great directors and great staff. So, but, it was a challenge. A lot of our staff were out with trying to manage their children's schooling and their childcare issues, and we were fortunate really not to have the COVID infiltrate through our different organizations.
Yeah.
Anyone, we had some that had community, but it wasn't through the town. And knock on wood that we continue to be healthy. I know. And now we're rolling out the, vaccine and
Hmm.
department. And in the middle of all of this, I needed to hire a new health director. And
Oh, that must have been a hard sell to sign someone up for that job right now.
our health director was retiring after 40 years last April, but he did stay on until I found a new health director. And
That was a pre-planned retirement. He didn't see the pandemic coming and decided it was time to get out.
he gave me many months of notice. It had always been on the horizon, but it was looming, and I think the pandemic was kind of like he was thinking, but he understood that he was important to the organization until we could get someone in place. So stayed on for quite a while.
Well, that was good. As you said, vaccines are getting in arms right now. What are you looking forward to in the coming year as we get past all this? What plans do you have that you're looking forward to getting back to?
Oh my gosh, we have so much going on in town as far as projects. So it's how to use all the pockets of money that we have to the best use, and to
Hmm.
start these projects without seeing an end in sight. Now, I won't be running again, so this would be an election year. So
Okay.
my term will end in November. So the race to really get a lot of projects done with the revenue that we have is what's kind of fueling things to
Hmm.
come to a conclusion, and to provide the next mayor with kind of a blueprint of all the work
Yeah.
done.
Feel like you're leaving with everything kind of
Well,
in place as much as you can be.
and there really were no projects on the shelf. And our municipality never really functioned that way, so it wasn't unusual not to have that.
Hmm.
It takes a good several years to really align, projects. Where
Hmm.
you get them through the funding, only bond every 2 years. So if it's an off year, you're bonding, you're really waiting 3 years to go out to bond.
Hmm.
And you're talking about a year or two getting the architectural components together. So it's really by the year 5, 6 is when you can really start making an impact. So I really want the next mayor, whoever it is, to be able to have some wins right out of the gate. I
Hmm.
think that's important for us as a community to have a plan and blueprint in place that, despite who is seated in this position, can really keep the town moving forward. And I
Yeah.
think for too long we did deferred maintenance on all of our buildings, and we have come and hit a wall. So I
Hmm.
was fortunate enough that during my time now, we went through a complete renovation and expansion of our library, which is a beautiful state of the art library. We have a second library that was shuttered because it's not ADA compliant, but it was a
Mhm.
gift to the town, and we really need to redo that. So the plans are ready to go on that one. The town HVAC system is antiquated, and so is the elevator. So we're going to go through an infusion and renovation of our town hall building, which is probably going to go out in the next month or two. We'll start that project. And we have the Showcase Cinema project, and we have several other historic buildings in the town of East Hartford that really need an infusion, and I'm hoping that I can set the stage that those can continue to be done.
So you can hand
So,
off a set of projects that are in process, going where the town needs to go, and yeah, that
and have
sounds.
some funding already associated with them. So, yeah, so I'm hoping that that's able to happen. Stagnation in government is never good. So I never wanted to say that we're stagnant again. And we have a new and revitalized membership in our town council, and they're young and energetic, and they want change, and I am super excited about it. And they don't mind spending money. So they don't mind putting it to good use. So,
Some of these
um,
projects might come to fruition.
oh, they all will come. I definitely know they will all come to fruition.
Well,
And
that's good to know.
it's really hard once we saw the library from what it was to what it became. I think everyone's standards, that's what our taxpayers want. They want to see our government using their money and bringing about good. And I think when the senior center, when they see the senior center, which I have to rave about the architect, Chris Williams, the architect, he did an amazing job of bringing us exactly from a decommissioned church, which a
Hmm.
contemporary church, which really was a box, to a very contemporary light filled with light and all the components of technology within it, grand pianos and pool tables and art rooms and a gym, and it's just really beautiful. And I think when people see that, they're going to say, you know what, our other buildings, I want them to look like this.
They look
So,
just as good.
and there's nothing that I like better than project managing and making, so the one thing we've done is we've unified all our purchasing and the interiors of our buildings. They all will have the same paint color, the same unified, carpet tiles, those kind of things that
Yeah.
really we have better buying power for it, and we have unified so people aren't putting in a million different things in a million different ways. We have been working since 2017 on laying our own fiber in the town of East Hartford.
Okay.
And that was something that we started prior to the pandemic being a reality in homeschooling. So I think the pandemic really brought about, we see it in many other communities where
Hmm.
there was not the access to broadband that was necessary for our students. And so it really has fueled the necessity for this to continue to be shaped. So we're hoping to that before I leave office that we kick this off and that we start laying the fiber that really can be a shot in the arm for bringing high tech businesses, logistics centers, and really being the first smart city in the town of in the state of Connecticut.
Well, I'll have to check it out. If that happens, I'll come up and use the Wi-Fi up there. Right.
Yes, everyone should have access to it.
Excellent. Well, Mayor, thanks again for speaking with us today. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Really fun, and thanks. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as the mayor for almost 2 months shy of 11 years, but when I leave in November. But it's been a great honor and a privilege to serve my residents and to really know the quality and the work that's being done on the local level. Sitting around a table with other municipal chief officials, town managers, and mayors. I don't think the public has any degree to the work and the hours and the passion that they put into it and the knowledge and the expertise that they hold. So I'm just have been really pleased to know and work with them. And CCM has been a great convener. Um, municipals, and to have 169 municipalities now part of CCM is a testament to organizations for us, not only through policy generation and advocacy, but also really the social networking component of being a leader is so important. So
Yeah.
my hat's off to CCM.
Yeah, working at CCM for as many years as I have now, one of the things I'm always amazed by is the dedication of local leaders like yourself to their towns, and how important it is to them to work towards making the town better, and even after they're out of office, that it continues to succeed. And so that's really heartening and good to hear.
I'll always be a champion for Connecticut, if not my home community and the greater region.
We'd like to thank our guest, Mayor Marcia Leclerc. I'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Digital Back Office Palo Alto Networks, who you can check out at digitalbackoffice.com and paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WNHH 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Kilson is our producer, Harry Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page. We've discussed the symbiotic relationship between Connecticut's cities and their first-ring suburbs. With East Hartford, you have the added layer that their partner city is also the state capital, meaning that decisions made just a few miles away under the Gold Dome affect decisions on Main Street in East Hartford. Mayor Marcia Leclerc joins us today on the Municipal Voice to talk about the current legislative session, what's going on in town, and infrastructure plans down the road. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor at Digital Back Office, Palo Alto Networks. Check them out at digitalbackoffice.com or paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM to Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state-local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Mayor Leclerc, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So, as we said in our intro, we have had guests on before who talk about the close relationship between their cities and